Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with the microaggressive Charles Coulombe.
Microaggressive?
Yes.
Microaggressive. So you're saying I'm microaggressive?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Okay, number one, how do I microaggress? And number two, who am I microaggressing?
You're microaggressing me with a lot of intangible nuances, small intangible, that individually are very small, but collectively they're enormous. And they're oppressive.
They're oppressive, are they? All right, let me ask you a question. All right, so basically you're saying that I'm microaggressing you within a structure of power.
Within a structure of power?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a form of power because it's kind of coercive. Sure. Okay.
Okay. So you're telling me that coercion is involved?
Yeah. There's a sort of forcefulness there.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you a question. Who pays my salary?
The customers. I just take in the money and distribute the money. See, it's like, the President of the United States. I mean, his boss are the American people. You see?
Oh, is that how it works?
This is not something new. This is a tired old expression.
I stand corrected. But I reject the idea that I microaggress anyone.
Well, I don't know. I mean, definition of microaggressions. So they include verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults. And whether intentional or not, these attitudes communicate hostile, derogatory, or harmful messages.
I have never slighted you or snubbed you in your entire life, not since you were a little one. And as far as giving messages of any kind, I tell you straight out, I don't have to rely on microaggression. If I'm annoyed, you'll know.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it is true. And while we're in the process of deconstructing microaggression, removing your esteem itself and your power over me from the picture, in which case what you call microaggression merely becomes the underdog's attempt to maintain some kind of self-respect in the face of overwhelming power, leaving you out of it. What does that leave for the rest of the world? Who else am I microaggressing?
People online with your consistent bombardment of social media posts, which have underlying hostile messages.
What are these underlying messages, A, and B, how are they hostile?
It's hostile toward multiculturalism and universal acceptance.
What are you talking about? My posts are about as multiculti as they come.
Well, then how come you're complaining about differing perspectives all the time?
Because they're stupid.
Exactly, see? There you go.
Oh, I see. So it's microaggression if you call something stupid.
See,
I get it. So in other words, when the little kid said the emperor was naked in the emperor's new clothes, he was actually microaggressing the emperor.
Well, see, that is a false metaphor that you used. Where so because that happened once, that everything is like that. When
it
that's not necessarily
constantly.
True. In your opinion,
constantly.
Your opinion is not simply truth, Charles.
Well, who told you this drivel?
You're trying to force it on me that your opinion is truth.
What line of malarkey have you been chewing up from home? Oh, you know who you've been talking to. I get it. I see what this is all about.
What?
Well, you tell Oswald it's not going to work. I am scholar in residence at Tumblr House, And there's no way him and his how-to pyramid scheme book is ever going to take my place at Tumbler House. I don't care what he's told you.
You feel threatened by Oswald?
I do feel threatened by Oswald. Everybody knows the get-rich-quick schemes, no matter how stupid, always outsell history, no matter how brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah. So he thinks he can leverage himself into my position. Well, let me tell you, you think I microaggress you. You wait till Oswald's running my show. You bet. Then you'll be sorry. You'll regret you were ever born.
Well, Oswald's an up-and-comer. You know, he knows how to hustle, and we like hustle in the Tumbler House Corporation.
It's called a pyramid scheme.
Well, you know who are the stupid people in the pyramid scheme? The Johnny-come-latelys. That's what. Those are the stupid people. And what's so wrong with punishing stupidity and rewarding intelligence? So you're against that. You don't think stupidity should be punished. You're basically proving my point.
Punishment.
What?
Stupidity is usually its own punishment. It doesn't need outside help. Well, you just wait until you start doing off the cash register with Oswald Dupree. And he has so stolen my act. I can't get over it. You know, the whole exiled French Canadian in America. But now, of course, he's had to move. Where's he living now? Denmark?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing. It's like a cheap imitation of my shtick. You know, I'm a French Canadian from New York, so he's a French Canadian from Chicago. I've lived most of my life in L.A., so he's lived most of his life in Jacksonville, Florida. It's all cut-rate stuff. You know, if you want third-rate baloney, then Oswald Dupree is the man to talk to. And then I moved to Austria to study theology. So what does he do? He moves to Copenhagen to study, I don't know, riflemanship or something. Locksmanship. I don't know what he's doing. The point is, I just don't see how you even deal with that guy at all.
Well, he's on your tail, Charles. You better watch out. He's in your rearview mirror.
Yeah, he's in my rearview mirror, all right. He's pretty scary. And, you know, the thing that I find really sad about Oswald is that he accuses me of having a fetish about the 50s, right?
Yeah.
And says, that's why you dress in all your dad-style clothing. But he dresses like he's just stepped out of the 70s. Cuban heels, big, wide lapels, the open shirt look, and he's even got a chest wig. I couldn't believe it. And the Jufro he's wearing isn't even real. And the gold medallions. And this is the fellow you think is going to take my place on Off the Menu, do you? Well, we'll see how the fans respond to that. I can see it now. And you know what? I know his shtick. Hey, everybody, it's Oswald, I'll Make You Rich, Dupree. You tune in here every week. And one of these days, you're going to be laughing all the way to the bank. You'll see. It's all garbage.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I do have, however, on a more somber and happier note, something to share that's got nothing to do with this phony wannabe Coulombe. No.
Okay.
No. It's actually in a sense quite serious because tomorrow in real time is August 22nd, 2020. Which is the 100th birthday of my late friend and acquaintance, Mr. Ray Bradbury. So, I want to take out a couple of minutes to say that I'm glad he's not alive now. I'm glad my dad and my mom and a lot of other people aren't around. But Ray Bradbury, ladies and gentlemen, to my way of thinking, while he lived, was America's greatest living writer. He He was, we think of him as a science fiction writer, but that's not quite true. Because he didn't just do science fiction, he did sort of fantasy, sort of horror, he did a lot of things. He was, if anything, he was kind of a romantic in the American sense, very much in the manner of Poe or Hawthorne or Irving, or all three together. And his topics ran from things like dystopia. Fahrenheit 451 was a future where reading was banned. The Martian Chronicles were wistful, mournful for a past that never happened. And Something Wicked This Way Comes.
My mom taught that in school.
An amazing book, and very autumnal, my favorite season, as you may be interested to know. But also a very moral book. All his books had morals, but Something Wicked This Way Comes in particular. And were that not enough, he certainly was a great crusader for not just for the imagination, but for literacy. A great lover of libraries. In fact, he used to shock his audiences because he'd done a lot of things. He'd written film scripts. He'd some very successful films. He'd written a lot of books and so forth. He traveled extensively. So he would shock in his later years when he was wheelchair bound and very, very, very shaky health-wise. He would shock his audiences by saying, "I am the world's greatest lover." And everybody would stare at him. And he would say, "That's not what you're thinking. I call myself that because I love." And then he'd go in this long list of the many things he loved. And they were all wonderful, the things we all love, from ice cream to summer days, and so on and on and on and on. He came out to Los Angeles at an early age, 11 or 12, I think. His parents brought him out from Waukegan, Illinois. And having gone through a similar experience myself, I can tell you I understood completely why in his work, Waukegan, Illinois turns into Greentown. Because when you come to Southern California from someplace in the East, and you're little, when you're young, what hits you the most is you've left the green for the dry and the dead. Another point I really need to make about Ray before we go on. He was a writer's writer. He was always very encouraging to to younger writers, and I speak from experience. He always did his best to encourage them. I remember very well the first time I met him. I had written him one of the very few fan letters I've ever written in my life, and I was 15 years old. And he said, "If you want to meet me," well, he sends a card. It was a form card, and it showed typing. And it said basically, "I'm too busy to answer all my correspondence. I get tons of letters a day. Thank you very much for your interest, Ray Bradbury." It was all printed. It was a form card. And then it said, "By the way, if you'd like to meet me, I'll be lecturing at Hollywood High." It was handwritten on this and such a date. So I went and I saw him. And one of the things I took away from that, he said, "Remember, if it's a writer you're going to be, never say, 'I'm going to be a writer,' or 'I want to be a writer,' or 'I'm trying to be a writer.' You are a writer. It may be that at the moment you're doing something else, but you're a writer first." Never forgot that. And there were a lot of funny things that happened that first time, but I saw him a number of times down through the following years. And when I was working on my anthology on booze writing, The Muse of the Bottle, back in 2001, I asked how much. I chose a selection from Dandelion Wine, which is you talk about nostalgic. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It describes the summer in Greentown, Illinois in 1921. or 22, something like that. But it was from his own, more or less his own memory. And there was a section I chose from it. So I called Ray's agent to see if I could get that section for the book. And she calls me back and she says, yeah, Ray will be very happy. I said, okay, how much does he want? And she says, 5. And I said, 100? No. 1,000? No, 5, as in $5. I said, that's all? She says, yep, that's it, $5. Well, why so little? She says, I don't know, you have to ask him. He didn't tell me. So the next time I saw him, the book had come out and I had his copy for him. And I asked him, I said, Ray, why did you ask for so little? And he said, well, I'll tell you. Firstly, you chose one of my favorite selections of my own writing. So I appreciate that. And secondly, it was an honor to appear next to some of the other people in that book. And when you think, as I say, that he was pretty much acclaimed at that time as the country's greatest living writer for that kind of gentlemanly manner and behavior. So, anyway, tomorrow is his 100th birthday. And so, Vinny, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the late, great Ray Bradbury. God rest him.
Okay.
So, what do we got?
So, we've got a bunch of memes.
Memes of production.
Yes, nationalize the memes of production.
For the common good.
So we've got the contest, which we're going to include in this segment. But first, let's do the memes first. Let's get them out of the way.
All right.
Let's see. First one is from William. That face you make when someone proposes Marxism to defeat Western ideology. I love your expression. It's like, I need some aspirin. I can't do this anymore. I just can't.
When you've heard the same drivel for 45 years, it kind of loses its excitement.
I believe it. All right, next one. So this has been a popular meme. Women with a time machine. I am your granddaughter. Really? Men with a time machine. 1453 AD. Rambo with a light machine gun saying, come take it. For the Hagia Sophia. Yeah. Boy, that's dead on. That's my favorite.
A lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Difference between men and women.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, now this I plucked from your Facebook timeline. This is Polish history, a picture, painting on Polish history. Exactly 100 years ago, the Poles defeated the Bolsheviks in the Battle of Warsaw, thanks to which they saved Europe from the yoke of the Communist Revolution.
Yep.
And one of your friends had a pretty amusing comment. He says, I recall reading about the giant steam-powered mechs deployed by the Polish army, though that would explain their victory.
Yeah, it sure would have.
This is a Polish history website, and they've got giant steam-powered mechs in the background that are...
Don't ask me, I don't know.
Sometimes revisionist history can be fun. It's not always frustrating. Sometimes.
Not always.
I love the... It's just... Yeah, let's go with that, yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's kind of a Frank Frazetta looking picture.
So, let's see here. Oh, by the way, I should mention that. So we've been getting a lot more people listening to us through iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are doing this on YouTube as well, you guys, on video. So if you want to see what's going on with the memes or the contest, YouTube is the place for that. So on to the contest. So we've got a pretty good amount of pictures for Halloween. So we asked people on last episode, if you didn't listen to it, we asked people to take pictures of Halloween displays.
Yes.
In stores. So we've got a bunch of pictures. I mean, late August Halloween displays. Okay. First one, we've got a lot of nice. Actually, let me share the screen 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. So Charles can see what's going on. Charles, do you see what's going on?
I do.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so this one's from Random Clarity on Twitter. A lot of nice pumpkin. I don't know what those are. Those look like jars or something.
Jars and baskets to collect candy in, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pleasant.
Yeah. This one's from Richard.
Ooh.
A lot of candy, a lot of treats.
Candy corn, my favorite, and we can't get that here.
That, I love seeing a picture of candy corn because I haven't thought about candy corn in like 20 years, and candy corn was one of my all-time favorite candies, and it was specifically for me at least a Halloween candy.
It sure is.
I don't know about everyone else, but I love candy corn so much. Ugh. I can just taste it right now. It's so good, so sweet.
I've got to recommend you go out and get some.
I need to.
As soon as it appears in the store.
Yeah.
But remember, candy corn does not become candy popcorn if you heat it.
Got it. That's good to know. So we've got, let's see here, 3 pictures from Anthony. We've got some costume outfits.
Yeah.
And then we've got some little decorations, it looks like.
Yeah.
And then
I like the autumnal decorations in the back on that
see.
thing as well.
Oh yeah, the autumn. Oh, it says harvest. Autumn harvest. Yeah. Interesting.
I like those very much.
Yeah.
You see, traditionally, but the thing is, you can sort of intersperse your Halloween decorations with those harvesty things.
Yeah.
And then when Halloween is over, you take away the scary stuff, leaving the Thanksgiving-y decorations intact.
We got the skeletons. Always.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What are these other things? Interesting.
Well, there's at the top, I think it looks like Indian corn.
Indian corn. Okay.
Or is it hands? No, it's not. It's skeletal hands. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is from Anne. This is kind of a homey looking setup.
That's very sweet. I like that.
Various things there. Very nice.
Yeah, that's quite sweet.
Now we've got 4 from Frey Lucas.
4?
1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is from Costco. Charles, yeah.
I mean,
it lacks heart and soul. It's like, oh well, we've got 1 million costumes. Here's 50 fairy costumes because you're an individual. Go pick up one of these 50 costumes, and we just have literally a truckload of candy.
Yeah.
Some jack-o'-lanterns. I don't even like the jack-o'-lanterns because I don't know about everyone else, but we carve our own jack-o'-lantern. I know that's a huge ritual in where you come from. Same here. And this cookie cutter jack-o'-lantern where you don't even, I don't know.
No, the whole thing. One of the great thrills of Halloween, first is figuring out your time so you can have enough time to cut the thing, during the day, and then grabbing that knife, spreading out the newspaper, cutting it open, pulling all the seeds and goo out of it.
Yeah.
And then cutting in the eyes and the nose and the teeth.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. And I loves me my jack-o'-lantern, I'll tell you what.
Absolutely. There's always a little because I always do the jack-o'-lantern in our house, and there's always a little creative expression, a little artistic expression that you get to do because there are many different faces you can make, and that's your time to, give it a go. And so we have one more.
All right.
From Columbia, America. At least that's the Twitter handle. An actual looks like a Halloween store.
Yes, they have these very
Yeah.
often in supermarkets or in malls, in department stores that have gone out of business. These Halloween stores will show up for the season, for a long season, starting in August and running all the way until a few days after the holiday.
Yeah. And so they
But
got. Huh, that's an interesting one. A butcher with a boar's head on the right. Never seen that before.
that's
That's certain.
that's a character, I think, from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. And then a clown on the left. Clowns don't scare me. I don't know.
They do?
They do not scare me. I never
No.
understood the people getting scared. They can be creepy, but I don't. Not
Creepy, but not scary.
Yeah.
Although I have to admit, the thing you see on the internet showing this clown out in the middle of nowhere in an abandoned building with spray painted free hugs, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's creepy. Okay, so who wins in the contest? That's the big question, right? Who wins? So,
Well, it's my considered opinion that the winner ought to be.
no, let me override you because I'm the one dishing out the prizes on this one, so I get to pick.
What are you talking about? I called for the thing.
You called for the thing, but I am funding the thing. And I have the money, so I have the power.
Oh, I feel so microaggressed. I feel macroaggressed.
Okay, so
You're stealing my authority right in front of our thousands of fans. I like that.
I'm not stealing your authority. It's my authority, which you're trying to usurp.
All right, Mr. Judge of the Art World. Who's the winner?
The winner is everyone. Everyone who has submitted a picture for Halloween wins a copy of Sean Leslie's Ghost Book. How do you like that,
Wow, that's
Charles?
really millennial of you.
Everyone is a winner. I'm basically the Catholic Oprah Winfrey right now. And you get a book. And you get a book. And you get a book. Everyone gets a book. Isn't that fun? Everyone wins. Ah, it's just,
Well,
it feels good. It feels
all
good to be
right.
the Catholic Oprah Winfrey. So, everyone who submitted, give me your mailing address and I'll ship it out right to you. For those who contacted me through Twitter, I think I've followed everyone who submitted. So just you can message me through Twitter then.
Act now while supplies last.
Oh, speaking of which, your book, let me bring it up on the screen, Blessed Charles of Austria, Holy Emperor and His Legacy. Available for pre-order, Tumblr House. I think it's $27 hardcover. They pushed back the date to September. I just talked with Tan Books, who is publishing the book, and so they pushed it back a little bit, but it's available at tumblrhouse.com. And let's see here, what was I gonna do? I've read into the first chapter now. I've gotten it. It's really good, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a huge book. I actually think it's going to be bigger than the Holy Grail book, because there's a lot of buzz around Blessed Carl, and Charles is really at his finest in this book, I have to say.
Well, I did try.
So order that book. Free shipping on all orders over $25, Charles. Can you believe that?
Are you saying, wait a minute, let me get this, free shipping over all orders, on all orders over $25?
That's right, Charles. But wait, there's more. Send in a book review on any book in the store and instantly get an extra $5 off your order.
Wow. And can anyone apply?
No, I'm sorry. It's void where prohibited. Sorry, no CODs, limited time offer, while supplies last. But operators are standing by, so act now.
Not an actor.
another shameless plug. So we don't publish this book, but Charles had recommended it. It's a new release, just came out this summer. Heart of Europe by Peter Wilson, A History of the Holy Roman Empire. We just got these in. This is a $25 book. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a monster. This is a monster of a book. This is 1,000 pages. This is one of the fattest books we sell.
But it's $25.
$24.95. So you need to order one little small book to get that free shipping. But if you get this with Charles's book, which is a very popular order, you get free shipping. So get this book. We've got a lot of other interesting books out. We've got also a book on integralism by Dr. Alan Phimister, and I forgot the priest's name too, co-authored. So we've got that in the store as well. A lot of really exciting new books coming out that I personally have them all on my reading list, or I'm reading right now. So TumblrHouse.com.
Absolutely.
What else do we have here? Oh, more news, even more news. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better. We hit a new goal on Patreon. So to celebrate, we're going to be doing another catch-up episode to catch up on questions. Will
that be Heinz ketchup?
No, definitely not Heinz ketchup. We hope to film it and release it in the middle of the week, and it will be an episode in addition to the weekly Monday episode. Okay, on to the questions. Okay, first question from Theo. Speaking as an ever so humble mailroom clerk, we are getting more and more fan mail asking about the existence of a mysterious Pre-PreShow, which they claim to have seen yourself, Charles, and some of the top floor executives disappear to. There are even rumors about discussions of matters pertaining to the 13th floor. Could you give us clerks some guidance on how to deal with these rumors of a Pre-PreShow?
Issue a blanket denial.
Issue a blanket denial? It sounds like you're reading a script, Charles.
Issue a blanket denial and emphasize that Tumbler House and its affiliates would never, have never, and shall never engage in any clandestine or otherwise unusual or dodgy behavior. This is a spontaneous response which has been approved by Tumbler House in advance.
Okay, that'll have to do.
Did I do right? Did I do okay, boss? Did I do okay on that? Was that okay? Was that good?
That was fine, Charles. That you can only do the best you can do.
You said I had to be like natural and spontaneous.
That'll do, Charles. That'll do.
Because I can do it again and try to be more spontaneous if you want me to.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
You can do it again.
No, Charles. Enough. Yes. We're moving on.
All right. I just don't want you to think that I try to get in the way of official policy or anything like that.
All right. Another question. A question from Brian. Charles, speaking from one white-collar worker to another, do you think the decline of manual labor has led to the demasculization of society?
Yeah, actually, to tell you the truth, coupled with the explosion in the numbers of and inflation of college degrees and so forth. Tons of people are going to university who shouldn't. And as a result, in all the developed countries, quote-unquote blue-collar jobs are either not being fulfilled, or they're being fulfilled by very old people or by imported folk. And in the meantime, people are really getting educated beyond their abilities. You've got PhDs in gender studies who they're basically useless.
Okay.
They're like steers trying to be milked. It just isn't going to work.
Well, is white collar work inherently effeminate? Or I mean, I don't know
No,
what word you
it's
use.
not inherently effeminate, but as I say, trying to groom the biggest part of the population for it, and then not giving them the means to achieve it by giving them all this drivel to study. You don't really think that anybody with a BA or an MA in gender studies is going to be doing anything outside academia, do you?
Well, that's, I don't know. Maybe joining Black Lives Matter. I don't know.
Well, that's it. I mean, doing something useful for society.
Oh, okay.
I don't mean intellectual twerking for a living. I mean, something useful.
Okay. Next
All
question
right,
is from Patty.
Patty.
Charles, I've been hearing a lot about the seamless garment position this election cycle. It seems to be what Catholic Democrats use to justify not doing much in regards to abortion by citing other social injustices. Could you explain more accurately what it is and how it differs from an integral approach to Catholic social teaching?
Well, sure. It was invented by Cardinal Bernardine of Chicago, who, in order to allow pro-abortion Democrat politicians to get to be considered as pro-life. So what you do is you add, in addition to abortion, you add things like immigration, free health care, no ID for voting, anything you want. And then, as long as you've got enough of these things, then you can claim that a pro-abort candidate is actually a pro-life candidate because he's good at everything else. You basically drown the abortion issue in a sea of irrelevancies.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I didn't quite catch the second part of the question.
Could you explain more accurately what it is and how it differs from an integral approach to Catholic social teaching?
Well, yeah, an integral approach would require. Well, first, you've got to bear in mind that in church teaching, there's a hierarchy of truths, a hierarchy of levels of teaching. Everything is not everything. So some evils are more pressing than others. Abortion is the most pressing evil. It's not the only evil, but it's the most pressing because all the others flow into and out of it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So, integralists attempt to cut the root of sin rather than simply deal with the symptoms as one can, which is what they were trying to do. And the seamless garment was invoked by Father James Martin at the Democratic National Convention this past week.
Okay, next question is from Theo. Dear Charles, during the age of European colonial empires, how did Protestant missionary activity compare to Catholic missionary activity? Why did Spain leave Latin America Catholic, but the Dutch not leave Indonesia Calvinist, for example?
Well, to answer your question, you've got to understand that they had a very different approach to the non-European. In the case of the Dutch East Indies, it's not fair to say they didn't evangelize. The areas that they conquered from the Portuguese, they did their best to forcibly convert to Protestantism. That is, areas that had already been Catholic. They forcibly attempted to convert to Dutch Calvinism. They did not attempt to convert the Muslims, who were the majority of the people in the peninsula, because that would have been bad for business.
Why?
And what's that?
Why?
Well, because they were ruled by Muslims who would have been very upset with the Dutch. They tried to convert their subjects to Christianity, even as today. You know what happens if you try to convert someone in Saudi Arabia or Iraq to Catholicism? You'll be lucky to escape with your head. So,
Yeah.
that's an important thing to bear in mind. Another thing is that because of their basic attitudes, neither the British nor the Dutch, for the most part, went in for converting locals, local native peoples, until fairly relatively late in the game. The Church of England began establishing overseas dioceses and so forth, but these were in the 19th century. But these were primarily for the white descendants of Englishmen, not to convert people. But you got a very big stimulus to conversion when the Anglo-Catholic movement erupted out of England and Oxford and into the rest of the world. So they began, through religious orders, they began trying to evangelize the areas beyond the Pale.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. The Anglo-Catholics are the big missionaries in that time.
Okay. Theo also asks, what are your thoughts on Father Vincent McNabb's contention that modern urban cities are proximate occasions of mortal sin? And what are your thoughts on the Catholic land movement more generally?
Well, I mean, the assertion by itself seems a little extreme. But as with Solange Hertz and electricity, or various people we know with geocentrism, even if the initial statement is a bit extreme, and I myself might not entirely agree with it, I think in each case the people involved, for their own reasons, have really, really gone into just how much these developments, just the effects these developments have had on believers. So whether or not you believe that electricity, for instance, is actually a tool of the devil, it has weakened the faith of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So similarly, even if cities are not necessarily a proximate cause of mortal sin for everybody, there's no doubt that the faith of most people tends to be weaker in urban settings and stronger in rural ones. That said, I very much support the Catholic land movement.
What is the Catholic land movement?
Well, basically Catholics going back to the land and farming.
Seems connected with. Is it connected with distributism? Is that the sort of the same, cut from the same cloth?
A lot of the same people were interested in both movements.
Yeah. It's interesting. That also, just spitballing here, one of the things that's interesting about that, from an economic standpoint, is that it clashes with the concept of specialization. How do you feel about that? Do you think people should be specialized, or do you think everybody should have a very broad array of ability? And being a devil's advocate on this, like, let's say, I don't know, let's take an extreme example. Let's say you're Jeff Bezos. If you're Jeff Bezos, is it really important for you to learn farming or plumbing or house repair, when really that is a huge opportunity cost? You are not doing what would be, I don't know, earning you probably like $1 million an hour or something. So what do you say about that, the concept of specialization?
Well, let's put it this way: it has a certain value in certain particular cases. But the fact of the matter is, the majority of us have gotten specialized with very little reason for it. Most of us don't have the mere talent to be brain surgeons or concert pianists. Most of us have much more general knowledge and a much more general set of talents. So I would say there are a lot of people for whom the return to the land would be a good thing and better than what they're doing now.
Well,
but not everybody.
This kind of connects to, I believe it was Brian's question about the demasculization of society. And what I'm talking about in terms of specialty is especially focused on white-collar work, digital work, as compared to hands-on work?
And I think there's a fair question there. I really do. Is it necessarily demanning? I don't know. I don't think so. But I do think a lot more people would benefit from having rural jobs of one sort or another than by leading the kind of existence most of us have today.
Okay. Right. Question from Andrew.
All right.
Hello, gentlemen. On an episode of the TV series The Sopranos, New Jersey crime boss Tony Soprano throws a birthday BBQ for his father-in-law with dozens of guests in attendance. An unusually casual Tony is merrymaking with his guests, sausage links draped over his shoulders, laughing, drinking, grilling, and having a great time. Days later, Tony is at a meeting with New York crime boss Carmine Lupertazzi. As the meeting is wrapped up, Carmine mentions that he heard about the cookout and hits Tony with the zinger, quote, "A Don doesn't wear shorts," end quote. My question for Charles is, how does he feel about short pants? Is it ever socially acceptable for a man to wear shorts, and if so, when? When was the last time that Charles has worn shorts in a social setting? Wow.
That's tough. Well, I'll start at the end. Last time I wore shorts in a social setting, I was probably about 16 or 17.
Wow.
I think probably if you're at a yacht party or something, it might be permissible. I don't know. Your Uncle Don Giovanni was very rigorous when it came to clothing.
So you say permissible. What does that mean?
It means I wouldn't do it myself.
Based on laws of modesty, formality? What's underneath
All that.
this? What's
all
underneath?
that. Personal prejudice.
Personal prejudice rooted in what, though?
Rooted in memory. I never saw my dad at anything social, no matter how casual, wearing shorts. I saw him wearing shorts if, we were going fishing. But not at a social event.
I see.
Wouldn't you like some rigatoni right now?
I'm trying to think of ways to get you fired up, to get that blood flowing.
I'm thinking of rigatoni.
What about rigatoni?
With meat sauce.
Yeah, it's delicious, right?
Yeah, big
Italians
meatballs.
have made enormous contributions to American culture, way more than French.
Well, the first part was true, and now you've just given out fake news.
Where are all the French restaurants? Where are all the French?
In all the best places.
In all the
ones
best
that haven't
places?
been looted.
Where in Arcadia is there? I mean, the one La Parisienne is closed down, Charles. What happened there?
What happened was the Depression of 2008. Nobody could afford to eat there anymore.
And yet, that was like one of the few restaurants that closed down. I mean, the Derby's still up. You've got plenty of ritzy Italian restaurants still up.
I know, but their food is good, but it was nothing to compare with La Parisienne, which was expensive. Because to make really good food, it costs. I told you my all-time favorite meal, which I had several times at La Parisienne.
What?
Well, we start with turtle soup. And I don't mean the sort of turtle bisque that you get in places in Florida and Louisiana. I mean big chunks of turtle meat with this incredible turtle stock.
You're a monster. Using turtles for food? Cute little turtles.
No, these are big snapping turtles. They're not cute, trust me. They'll bite your finger off. I mean, they're not cute.
Okay.
Then they would be followed with Caesar salad done tableside. The cracking egg and the different ingredients all mixed together, and that was great. And then, also done tableside, steak Diane. Oh, and the steak flambe at the end. So good. And when that was finished and then it was time for dessert, oh, crepe Suzette, also done tableside, also flambe. So great. And I would go waddling out of that place having dropped a ton of money, but not caring because it was so good.
Alrighty. Next question is from Julius Caesar.
Speaking of Italians.
Well, he's that's his alias on YouTube. I plucked this from this is one of the rare questions I've actually plucked from YouTube comments because I felt it's a very important question.
All right.
I am one of those people who is spiritual but not religious. And yes, I am fully aware that many of us are full of crap. What is your view on us, and is there any profound question you could ask any of us? By the way, I'm a huge fan of you and your work, and am also a monarchist. Okay.
Well, firstly, let me thank you for your kind words. They're much appreciated. We always can take fans. We're non-denominational when it comes to people helping us. But how do I put this nicely? The thing about the spiritual but not religious thing is that to me it always seems kind of pointless, kind of make it up as you go along, without any kind of certainty, any kind of reality to it, sort of play acting. So my deep question would be, if there is no true revealed religion, why bother? It's a deep question, I don't know, but it's the one you get.
Well, I've always said that in order to be an atheist, you have to have a complete and utter disregard of philosophy.
Yeah.
Because your metaphysics, you have no metaphysics to stand on, honestly. I mean, you have to believe that something comes out of nothing, which is, I mean, that's physically impossible. That's just,
yeah.
That's, yeah. So I wonder to what extent that's the case with spiritual but not religious people. Have they done a true and honest search through philosophy, through reason, to discover the truth? Are they really searching? And I think that's a question that Julius Caesar should ask himself. Are you really searching?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for asking us to ask it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Caesar. All right.
Jules to his friends.
Okay. The final question for today is from Theo. Save the best for last. I always like ending the question with a bang.
Yeah, but Theo's an Englishman.
Oh, you biased against Englishmen?
No.
You prejudiced?
I just thought I'd throw it out. I just thought I'd throw it out there for no particular reason.
Okay.
Maybe tease him a little bit.
I'm actually biased in favor of Brits. They're more well-spoken and they're more personable than Americans in general.
Excuse me, Mr. Franchini. Do I understand you to say that you find that Limeys are better spoken and more, how do I say this, more articulate than we are?
You know, Charles, you've got the mongoloid Italian gangster impression down. But let me ask you a question. Where's your snooty Frenchman? Where's your snooty Frenchman? I find that conspicuously absent in your arsenal of caricatures.
Well, none of my caricatures don't exist. They're all real.
Oh, okay.
Frenchmen
So it's
never snooty.
Oh, okay.
They're always just self-accepting.
Got it. Got it. Glad we figured that one
We
out.
got that one straightened out.
All right.
The Frenchmen are never ever snooty. They're always kind, helpful. In fact, they're basically nature's Boy Scouts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. Everyone knows that.
All right. So Theo's question. My friend's Brazilian grandmother was one of 12 children. There was no fridge in their household, but her parents raised every one of them to speak French and play the piano. My friend said that he would sacrifice his fridge to be able to speak French and play the piano. I concur. Many Catholics of my generation sometimes feel like useless postmodern blobs who have been robbed of our cultural and spiritual inheritance and who know so little about Catholic culture in our own Western heritage. As Bishop Williamson says, there has been a steady cultural decline as Catholic civilization has corroded. How do we restore the fruits of Catholic culture to our own progeny? Can we be the hinged generation that renounces modernity in all its works and its empty promises? Can you give some small pieces of advice on how we can do so? Bishop Williamson recommends barring children from all electronics, which would seem to be a sine qua non for a life of grace to take root. The family is an imperfect society in that it cannot provide for itself to fulfill its own telos. Therefore, simply establishing secure frontiers is not enough. We need Catholic local communities, but communities of families who are truly committed to the counter-revolution. It is impossible to articulate just how bad the situation is out there and how much of a revolution is amongst Catholics. How can families thrive or even just survive amidst the ruins of Christendom today?
That's an awful lot, though.
A lot of questions. Okay, should we break this up for you, Charles?
Let's unpack it.
Let's unpack this. Yeah, I like unpacking this.
All right.
All right. How do we restore the fruits of Catholic culture to our own progeny? And can we be the hinged generation?
Well, that's two different questions.
Okay.
So, in terms of restoring to our own progeny, well, you can't be a reservoir if you don't have any water. And you may notice that there's actually a connection between the earlier questions about effeminacy and white collar and the back to the land.
Yeah.
And you notice that there's actually a continuity there. And they're attacking, or not attacking, but they're examining or asking about different aspects of the same problem, really. And the problem is that we are postmoderns. We're cut off from everything. We're cut off from reality. Now, how do you go about regaining it? Well, of course, there's no handy-dandy way to do this just like that. And it has to be a work in progress, because especially if you get married and have children, you're basically going to have to be doing several things at once, trying to educate and improve yourself, all the while you're trying to pass this on to the children. Well, there's a number of things you could do. Firstly, examine your own heritage. If you're like Italian, Hungarian, and Slovak or something, or English, or French, or Dutch, or whatever you are. American black from Louisiana, or from Kansas City. Examine your own heritage that you probably don't know much about. You're very likely not raised with it. So that does mean studying up on the dreaded internet, but it also means seeking out, ethnic folk groups, your restaurants, reading books about, say you're Italian, just as a wild guess, books about Italian folklore and history and cooking and things. And then you have to see how much of this you can apply in your own life. One of the easiest and best ways to do anything like that is keeping the church's festivals in the way your ancestors did, to the best of your ability. And that takes a bit of work. It takes a bit of searching, but it's a worthwhile thing. And it produces things It would produce results that your children will have, presuming you have them, and that other people can go to. So I would definitely say that. As far as being the hinge generation, well, if enough of you make these sorts of choices, of course you'll be the hinge generation. If not, not.
A thought just popped into my brain relating to your statement about the commonality of the three questions. And so unpacking that, so you've got Brian talking about the demasculization of society, kind of implying we need to unplug from the digital world to some extent. And then you've got question from Theo on the Catholic land movement and urban cities being proximate occasions of mortal sin. So it's, the temptation of big city life, I guess you could say. And then here it's kind of ignorance of cultural and spiritual inheritance. So that's connected with a sort of apathy, lethargy, in terms of knowing things.
Yeah.
And you say there's a commonality, and I think I know what the commonality is. It's I'll explain it using my all-time favorite Catholic quote from Pope Benedict. The world offers you comfort, but you are not made for comfort. You were made for greatness. So it's about putting aside being comfortable, putting aside, the comfort of plugging into the digital world, to big city life, to lethargy and apathy, just sitting on the couch and just relaxing. And it's about doing God's work.
Mm-hmm.
Greatness. We have to redefine what greatness is. It's not Michael Jordan or even Donald Trump or some great feats of the world. It's doing God's will. It's faithfulness. It's doing what's right.
No.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
Particularly sometimes.
Particularly if it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's a very simple thing, but that's how we do it. We have to reject the comforts of the world.
And it's simple to say, but hard to do in practice.
Yeah.
We all of us want the easy way, the soft way, the comfy way. I know I do.
I watched a video by Father Mike Schmitz, I think his name was. I told you this story, Charles. It's a very important story because it illustrates what we all have to fight against about, I think, an Asian gentleman who perhaps was living in China, I forgot. But it was in a nation where there's active persecution of the church.
Yes, right? I remember this.
And where they were having mass at his house, the underground church. And, they got tipped off that the authorities were coming in and they're going to get him. So everybody left, but it was his house. So the priest left, everybody else left. They get him and they basically torture him. And they ask for the name of the priest, give us the priest. And after an extended amount of time, he just simply wouldn't tell them. He would not tell them because he knew, they'd get the priest and that's the end of Mass for everybody. And so he held out. And eventually the authorities let him go. And eventually he got out of the country and went to America. And this is a person that's filled with zeal, filled with love for the Mass, love for the sacraments, and willing to suffer. So he goes to America, and he's like, wow, this is great. Religious freedom, get to go to Mass every day, no persecution. This is awesome. But he also discovered in America that the harder you work, the more successful you become.
Right.
So he started to immerse himself more in work. And suddenly daily Mass turned into Mass on Sundays. Then you start even going down that path even more, and then suddenly it was Mass on Christmas and Easter. And then it was just Mass on Easter. And Father Mike's point, as he says, is the American culture did what this, let's say the Chinese government couldn't do, even though it was trying actively, even though it was trying with all its might. And American culture didn't lift a finger.
No.
And so that is such an important anecdote because it shows what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
And it shows how hard and how difficult it is.
I'll say.
It's the comforts of the world that we're fighting against. That's what you have to overcome. The devil
so
can offer you the
comforting.
world, but you have to reject it.
But they're so comforting.
And I know. I know. And
I mean, just warm and cozy.
And I always hearken back to one of the things I always hearken back to is the prophecy by de Montfort that the saints of the latter times will tower over the old time saints like the cedars of Lebanon to a shrub. And you start to understand why, because there's so many things where you start to ask yourself, did St. Thomas Aquinas have to deal with the same sort of bombardment we have to deal with in terms of temptation, in terms of comforts of the world?
Not likely.
Not likely. And it takes grace. It takes grace from God to that much more to overcome everything, the comforts of the world. And so that's such an opportunity. We have the opportunity of a lifetime, like never before, to become great saints.
Yeah,
that's greatness.
Let's hope we all take advantage of it.
So,
what else does he have for me?
Yeah, let's see. Can you give small piece of advice on how we can do so? How we can restore the fruits of Catholic culture?
Well, again, a lot depends on what you want to do with your life. What profession you enter, whether or not you're called to the married or the religious life, and where your interests lie. Look around you. Take a good look at yourself, and see where you want to go. See what's in your immediate neighborhood that's a remnant or a bit or a piece of old Christendom.
For me, my bit of advice is it has to start with prayer, because prayer gives you the grace and it gets you in. Every time you're praying, including praying in the rosary, you're saying, well, I'm not watching television. I'm not engaging in the comfort of the world. I'm dedicating time to God. I'm putting God first. And so that gets you in a habit. And talking with other people in Catholic media, a lot of us feel that this is God, the coronavirus and the pandemic. This is God trying to draw us in, trying to teach us to pray more.
Well, that's true. And also I'd add, if you're in an area where you've got the opportunity for daily mass, go.
Yeah. That's
anytime you're in a position, go. Because you never know when you can again.
So in terms of the little advice from me is everything starts with prayer. Because that's going to give you the grace to do some of these other things, to teach your family better, to get your family into good habits, to be more active in the community. That's just it's not just some switch that you can turn on.
No. And without prayer, nothing is possible.
Right. So I think, listening to some of the other people too, again, I think when coronavirus ends, I think we're really going to be in a big prize fight. I think traditionalists are going to come out guns blazing, because I think we are praying more now. Like for me, I need to be praying more. And I ask myself, how bad does the world need to be for me to pray the rosary regularly? Like a lot more. And I think that's a fair question for everybody that we all have to ask. We all have to increase our prayer life. As St. Teresa of Avila said, we all look to be perfect in the ways of the world, in our profession, or in sports, or whatever. How come we don't do that spiritually?
Well, because we don't have enough faith. They're not real to us like these other things are. And, but another thing that will, I think, lead to, as you say, the trads coming out blazing, is the fact that the leadership has been so woefully inadequate during all of this. And I think that, rightly so, we were deferential to a degree to our leadership, to a degree that nobody else was. I mean, no one, even the vast majority of traditionalists I know, will always try to make the distinction between the office and the man, especially when it's with regard to a bishop. Well, tell me, do we have any more of those questions in that massive question he said?
Nope, that'll do it, Charles. Any final thoughts?
Yes, you betcha. You betcha. What the Halloween displays reminded me of is something that I want everybody to think about. And for that matter, what Ray Bradbury and his Eternal Autumn makes me think of. It's very important. What does back to school say to you?
Back to school is a horrible, horrible, dreaded term that has been ingrained to me over my entire life of school.
It is. It's pretty horrible, but it means that the summer is ending.
And that's sad, too.
Maybe, but as the Halloween displays are reminding us, what's waiting on the horizon after this long, hot summer of discontent and stupidity and moronic mental twerking and face twerking. Yeah, go ahead. Figure that one out. What that one out means, ladies and gentlemen. Face twerking. Okay. That's what a lot of commentators do. Anyway, that's got you thinking there. The thing is that after all this Sturm und Drang, Halloween is coming. We get rid of the election. Then you can sit back. And whatever happens to the election, I could almost guarantee if the Trumpster wins, he will put down the unrest very swiftly. If Harris wins, then they'll stop being difficult for the nonce. Either way, 2020, I predict in my best Criswellian mode, your Thanksgiving and your Christmas will be a way to relive normality. So what back to school means is that Halloween is coming, Thanksgiving is coming, Christmas is coming. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're feeling terribly out of sorts. As Auntie Mame tells us, we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Well, even in the midst of August, we sometimes need a bit of Christmas. Not just the memory of times past with our loved ones and the wonderful feeling that one acquires, but also remembering the birth of our Lord, which is a reality that extends throughout the year. That's why it's one of the joyous mysteries of the Rosary. We can never really lose sight of it. So all that is coming, ladies and gentlemen, in your wonderful future, whatever other annoyances you have to put up with right now. So do your best to get through them. Don't let them grind you down. Christmas is coming. We'll get through this election one way or the other. The thing to remember is that what counts at the end of the day, if we go to heaven, ladies and gentlemen, all of this rot will be like a bad dream. And Christmas, the good Christmases, will be one of the few things, I think, that we'll really remember well. So, I do have one question for you, though.
Yeah.
What is it if it's Monday?
It's off the menu.
Well, yeah, but the soul you save.
May be your own.
God bless, ladies and gents. We'll see you next week.